Do we have this guy George? Is he on?
I'm sorry, how are you talking to me?
Yes. Is this guy George ready to go?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Lynn in sunny Las Vegas.
This is Dan from the moonbat capital of Jamaica Plain.
This is Gigi in Leominster, Massachusetts, and this is the Howie Carr Show.
844-500-4242. That is the toll-free number of the Howie Carr Show. I'm back. Glad to be back. I had a good time in Dallas. The only thing I missed, I didn't get to Whataburger and I didn't get to Norma's, where they have the best chicken fried steaks on the planet. But, you know, that's the way it is when you're with a bunch of people who don't really appreciate the finer points of Lone Star State cuisine. George, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, George.
Hey, Howie, how are you?
Good.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
So just because you guys have been all over different topics. I mean, you know, Joe Biden, it's funny because if you remember when Trump was running against all the Republicans, he was the only outsider. So it was game on. He attacked everybody. Well, these guys are all swamp dwellers, so they're not really picking on Joe yet. I don't understand that. You know, that's what Grace was talking about earlier. So it doesn't seem like everyone's going to bump ugly like Trump did in the Republican.
Well, I don't think there's any upside to being the mouse that puts the bell on the cat, right? I mean, look at Marco Rubio. He was taken down by Chris Christie, 4 years ago, and it helped Trump to have Rubio eliminated as a contender. But did it improve Christie's standing at all? No. So I think they don't see any upside. They'd rather let somebody else try to bell the cat. In this case, Joe Biden, or just think that he's going to go down on his own. I couldn't listen to the first couple of segments. I don't know how much that Taylor played of the cuts from out on the campaign trail. Did you play any of those weird cuts where he forgot everything, Taylor?
No, we haven't gotten to those yet.
The strange thing is, and Grace told me during one of the breaks that you didn't see anything to it, but when his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, put out her hand in Iowa on the No BS tour, the No Malarkey tour, and he bit it. And, you said you thought that was fairly benign, but, I don't know. I had a relative who died of or had Alzheimer's, very old, and lived to be 94, 95. So it wasn't tragic that she died or anything. It was time, but at the very end, she had to be institutionalized because she had dementia. She didn't know where she was. She was she'd walk away from the house, and at the very, very end, they would try to feed her because she didn't eat, and she would sometimes grab the person's hand who was trying to feed her and then bite the hand. And I'm sorry, but when I saw Joe Biden biting his wife's hand, that's the vibe I was getting.
Well, that's because that was connected to your personal experience.
But I don't think that is a unique experience. I think that's those two biting people's hands. When you're losing your memory, I think I wasn't the only person who was getting that vibe.
It was just a cute little love nibble. She almost whacked him in the face, so he kind of chomped down on her fingers. It was a cute little play moment, that's all.
Taylor, we have very different ideas of what qualifies as cute.
Yeah, I know. And
he's just lucky the Polydent held up.
808 says you're going to have to narrow it down on those. There's a million weird Biden campaign moments. We said this last week, when they say he's going to be out on the road for 8 days. I mean, do you know how many moments we're going to have? And sure enough, I come back and I haven't even seen 3 or 4 of these that are on the cut sheet. Where he's just
I don't know who's filling in the last 2 days because he thinks it's only 6 days long.
We're going to get to all of this. all of this, and there's just so, and we haven't even scratched the surface of Lisa Page and her scintillating interview, and Taylor pulled some of the stuff from the recreation of the these two people, a man and a woman, did their own version of Masterpiece Theater with the transcripts, and you got to remember we haven't even gotten into any of the pillow talk. Text messages, only a handful, and the sconed woman wife is the one who wrote. Give me the Howell Heflin sound cut of a. Are you a sconed woman? Get me that, Taylor. I'm Howie Carr. John, what happened at Perfect Smiles when you went?
The initial consultation was easy. In the past, they just hand me a clipboard to fill out the forms.
Taylor?
But that's not how I worked at Perfect Smiles.
Can we record
what was
the
nice
Di
was it
Stefano
was
ad?
a
I
true
have it here.
consultation. They asked me my medical
just
history,
give me a minute so I can
what I
look
wanted to
the
get out of the
local
treatment
people
plan. For me, I lived with TMJ. I'd literally have to crack my jaw throughout the day to relieve the pressure. I'd get headaches throughout the day. I'd be in pain. When I was at Perfect Smiles, they asked me what I wanted to get out of the treatment. As a joke, I just said, geez, I'd love you to be able to fix my TMJ. And I was surprised because Dr. Houghton specializes in working with patients like me that have TMJ.
Okay. What were the results of visiting Dr. Houghton at Perfect Smiles?
Not only did I walk out of that office with a perfect smile, but he fixed my TMJ. It was a life-changing event. People tell me now that my smile's amazing. People would say, geez, John, your teeth look so great. I never realized my teeth looked so bad before. Now I take a look at the before and after pictures, and I'm amazed.
Go to Perfect Smiles in Nashua, New Hampshire, or visit their website, perfectsmiles.com.
There are plenty of differences between Trump and the Democrats running for 2020, but the main one is Trump is pretty funny. Take a listen.
What advice would you give to the
Ready?
Go ahead.
If your hair loss, excuse me. If your hair loss is finally bothering you enough to do something about it, I've got really great news for you. If you've ever wanted a hair transplant and thought it was too expensive, listen up. Highness and his team at DiStefano Hair Restoration would like to give you the gift of hair this holiday season. Imagine an 1,800 graft IGT procedure for just $6,500. That's a savings of $3,500. Or a 2,500 graft FUT procedure for just $6,500, a savings of $3,000. Imagine your own hair growing where there was none. Your choice, an IGT or FUT for just $6,500. Do you want a natural-looking, undetectable hair transplant you can afford? Don't wait. This is a limited time offer. You must have your procedure completed this month. Third-party financing is available with payments as low as $119. Call 800-858-HAIR for your free consultation. That's 800-858-HAIR. Call 800-858-HAIR or visit hairman.com.
Howie, there's a line there.
Oh,
that says
IGT.
Dr. Hines and his
IGT.
team.
No one told me about IGT. Okay, sorry about that.
No, and also
I pronounced that. I pronounced that right. IGT and FUT. Yeah, I got it right.
Right. Howie, there's another line there. It says, I believe you said Highness and his team. You should have said Dr. Highness and his team.
I was wondering about that. Okay.
Just re-record that, please.
Dr. Highness and his team at DiStefano Hair Restoration would like to give you the gift of hair this holiday season.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. And give me that Howell Heflin thing, too.
Sure.
You're listening to the Howie Carr Show.
Here's how it works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours too. If your 401k, your SEP, your IRA, whatever, is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying much about those quarterly statements. But lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally meant rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the...
Hey, Howie. Is Howie there?
and including peace of mind, by calling Orion Metal Exchange now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. That's 800-912-2300. And now, a minute of wisdom from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Millennials and people and Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And this is the war. This is our World War II. I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
But being factually correct is important.
It's absolutely important.
And if we work our butts off to make sure that we take back all three chambers of Congress, all three chambers of government, the presidency, the Senate, and the House in 2020, we can't start working in 2020.
He's New England's talk radio king. He's Howie Carr.
The only French term I like is sans culotte, without trousers. I used to describe Ted Kennedy as sans culotte. Because after the O'Bar incident, when he was wandering around down on the beach, with his 20th Scotch tumbler of the day in his hand, stumbling around with he was just there, as the Michel Casson, Patches Date said, he was just there, without trousers, or as we say in Paris, sans culotte.
We've seen nothing that we can work. But I can work with President Bush on, and I'm disappointed because I thought that there might be some interest because of what he said in the campaign.
President Bush, this is your brain. This is your brain on Botox, okay? That's the lesson of that one.
I'm going to say
You're listening to the Howie Carr Show.
He's the co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, so what better time to play some of his greatest hits? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Frosty.
This is going to be a mission to save all of creation. If you want to ignore that these changes are taking place and that they're having a dramatic impact, then you are in the right place.
You know what the winters were like at Plymouth Rock? Do you know what the winters were like at Plymouth Rock, Senator?
Well, here is the thing.
You don't. How long has your family been in Massachusetts?
We are new arrivals. And, Mr. President, American history was made last night. The Boston Patriots won the Super Bowl. When the Second Amendment was written in order to maintain a well-regulated militia, they did not have in mind that
Taylor.
people could purchase guns indiscriminately. The president is acting like Pontius Pilate.
I had to have Howie move over to the other mic that is a little bit that you said was a little bit not loud enough. So I'm gonna have him just talking to it now, and I'm gonna mess with it a little bit. So just tell me. Okay.
Go ahead, Howie.
Testing 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2 3 4. This is Howie Carr.
Yeah, he sounds far away.
Do I sound far away? How do I sound now?
Better.
Better? How do I sound now?
Even better.
That's right. My face is in the mic. I don't think it'll look good on TV.
So have somebody raise the
Is it
level on that.
louder now, Taylor, than it was? I just turned up both.
All right, Grace, you speaking to yours, then Howie, you speaking to yours.
Hi, this is Grace Curley speaking at the Howie Carr Show.
Now, Howie.
This is Howie Carr speaking for the Howie Carr Show.
Yeah, Grace, you're still a little louder than Howie.
Okay, hold on. Taylor, how about now? Go ahead, Howie.
Testing 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2 3 4.
That sounds good.
And Grace?
Testing 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2 3 4.
Yeah, Howie, if you can scooch in a little closer to your mic.
Okay.
That'll be better.
I'm on top of it. It's growing out of my mouth now.
All right, so Grace, you just back off of yours.
Okay, I got a lot of good stuff. Taylor, we can't hear anything.
God, that's a great article. And thanks for sharing it. And F Trump.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
Lisa Page says it was this shocking moment at one of President Trump's rallies that was her breaking point.
I love you too, Lisa. Lisa, I love you. Lisa! Lisa! Oh, God, I love you, Lisa.
Yes! 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 I'll have what she's having.
Who's your captain? Howie Carr.
I can only imagine how Lisa Page felt when she heard that. What did she share with the Daily Beast?
Yeah, I mean, she was horrified. She called it the straw that broke the camel's back.
That's what she said.
Unchained and unstoppable.
So we're on a no malarkey tour, meaning we're telling the truth.
I have that Howell Heflin clip, by the way.
Okay.
About to launch a 6-day... And that's the reason I'm taking this 650-mile tour.
Former Vice President Joe Biden launched a 100-mile blitz.
A 6-day... 650-mile tour. What's the schedule? What am I doing? I got hairy legs, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Am I the only one that was super creeped out by that?
Rump swabs, hacks, and moonbats beware. It's Howie Carr.
Should Lisa Page really be talking about something about being on her back? Or was that me? I don't know. And again, what was she talking about, the orgasm thing? There was nothing about an orgasm in that. He was just making a joke. You want the orgasm thing? That's why we put in the Meg Ryan sound cut from Sleepless in Seattle.
I think it's when Harry met Sally.
Or whatever it is.
Whatever it is. It's one of the best rom-coms of all time.
Harry Met Sally. Billy Crystal. Come on, Howie.
One of those broad
It's a great holiday movie, too, because it spans Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I've never seen it.
I saw it once, but it obviously made a great impression on my mind. If I can't remember all these years what the title was, or I got it confused with another sappy comedy like that. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. The thing is, what I found remarkable is I read that story as soon as I heard that it was out in the Daily Beast, and they never mentioned Peter Strzok's name once in the story. It's just a deeply, deeply personal affair, and of course, what broke when I was away, for those that everybody was away basically for Thanksgiving, was that the actual texts were not found by the FBI. Well, we knew they weren't found by the FBI. The FBI was trying to make sure that they didn't get found. But I thought it was the IG's office that found the tapes originally, and they did originally, eventually, discover the entire cache of them. But the original tip that the text existed, do you know who it came from?
Who?
Mrs. Peter Strzok. You didn't see that?
Oh, good for her.
A scorned woman.
Let me tell you, I'd give them a tip too if I found that out.
Do we have a?
Are you a scorned woman?
Yes, she was a scorned woman. She worked. Did you know that her name is Melissa Hodgman, and she worked for the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, and apparently she was on the Hillary Clinton email investigation. I don't know why she had to do what she had to do with that. We're going to ask Joe DeGeneva about that a little later.
But what about the text between Lisa Page and Strzok where she was saying, "Oh, your wife called me. Should I tell her we're friends? Because that's all this is." Like they're both playing dumb via text. If you found out someone you were married to was sending thousands of texts to someone they work with who's of the opposite sex.
He also the sconed woman also found the bill for the flowers that it sent her, and also some receipts from the no-tell motel.
Well, I wouldn't even need that. I would just need the text
They were
because
just his response was, Lisa just had a very bad week. She got some bad oats.
Oh, that's not nice. No, but I would be so mad. I mean, just the text alone. Forget the flowers. Forget the motel. That is it's called micro cheating. And I know I'm going to sound like a huge millennial right now, but if you're texting someone all the time, day in and day out, about what you're having for lunch and all this stuff, you are having a relationship, and that is not fair to the person you're with, because that is cheating. It's a weird.
Even in this puff piece, Grace, she admitted she was having an affair with the man whose name we cannot speak. So she even acknowledged. You know what?
She was love-struck.
Another thing that gets me. I can't believe they're doing this to the Justice Department and the FBI, where I grew up. I'm going. Oh, she's 39 years old. She started working there in 2013.
She's like,
so she was. What was she? She has amnesia before the age of 33. She doesn't remember any part of her life.
No,
she was 33.
She was Eloise of the FBI. She was running around. Oh, hello. She was raised there. Duh.
Did she have a pug like Eloise?
Howie, so to get to a little bit of Grace's news here, because I want to get your take on all of this. The White House has declined Jerry Nadler's invitation for this week of the impeachment circus. What is your take on that?
Well, why would he want to participate in his own lynching? A high-tech lynching, as Clarence Thomas would say. I wasn't surprised by that. I would have been stunned if he had actually agreed to it. I heard some defense lawyer this morning before I left Dallas saying that on TV that, in a way he would have liked to have had some, guy pounding on the table and, demanding witnesses and all that. But I don't think so. I think the best response was what he did, which is just, we're not going to dignify this by sending somebody there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you that he just doesn't want to give it any credibility because he feels that this is a complete joke, along with Russiagate was a nothing burger. Now they're saying, Howie, and I talked a lot about this last week, but they're going to bring in people now to lecture the American viewers about what qualifies as high crimes and misdemeanors, as if that's going to move the needle.
Right.
A boring lecture on TV. That's like saying, if everyone watches C-SPAN, then everyone will really start believing us.
They're bringing in academics. I hate to use the old cliche, but I think it applies here. He who can does. He who can't teaches. So these guys are professors. What do they know about any of this stuff?
More than you deplorable redneck.
There was one impeachment in the first almost 200 years of the Republic, Andrew Johnson. And that was a frame job, too, even though he was a terrible president back after the Civil War. In my lifetime, there have now been 3 impeachments. And I would say the first 2 were moderately justified anyway. But this one is preposterous.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing up other presidents, because a poll this weekend showed that most Republicans consider Trump a better president than Abraham Lincoln.
I think that was just another stacked poll to so that they could dump on Trump supporters as being idiots. I don't buy that.
Well, it's not so much that I think he's a better president, but you just know what you know. I mean, he's affected my life more than Abraham Lincoln.
Is
that bad to say?
It's a case of what have you done for me lately, honest Abe?
Yeah, no offense to Abe Lincoln.
When was the last time you freed the slaves?
Right. I mean,
and you did pick a pretty bad vice president there the second time around. Why didn't you stick with Hannibal Hamlin from the state of Maine? There have been so many close calls for people from Maine being president. There was James G. Blaine from the state of Maine, and then he runs into some Protestant minister who starts talking about Romanism and rebellion, and he loses. I mean, so what if he's corrupt? So there was Hannibal Hamlin, James G. Blaine, and Ed Muskie, who he didn't get as close as Hamlin or Blaine, but he was up there for a little while.
You are right, though. It is a way to make Trump supporters seem like we're a big cult of morons, which is not the case. When we get back, Howie,
the real cult, the cult is on the other side, as we see every day of the week, and now we see that the City of Newton Democrats are calling Trump a savage in their their holiday party invitations. Ridiculous.
Howie, when we get back, I have Bloomberg News, and this is not about his candidacy. This is more about the actual Bloomberg station, or whatever you call it, media enterprise.
Right. And do we also have sound of him saying that poor people should be taxed more because they're so stupid that they'd spend their money on killing themselves? So if the more money we can take away from them, the longer they'll live. Do we have that sound cut? That's a very nice clip.
Well, Bloomberg was the one who wanted to take away everyone's soda, and guess what?
Well, this is part and parcel of taking away their soda. If we take away more of their money, they won't be spending it on Slurpees.
I'm having a high-test Coke right now. Take that, Mike Bloomberg.
All right.
How dare you?
844-500-4242. I'm Howie Carr.
You can call him Fat Boy, just don't call him late for dinner. It's Howie Carr.
517, awesome.
This hour
Howie,
of the
we're
Howie
gonna
Carr
switch mics.
Show
We're
is
gonna get
brought to
over
you in
here,
part by
This mic is
Orion
really-
Metal Exchange. For a free investing kit
This
from
mic-
Orion,
this mic is-
text free
musical
kit
chairs?
48
Well, no, this mic's
48
really
48.
clear, and
That's
it's,
free kit
sounds
to
really good,
48
so I
48 48. Ah, fall in New England, known for its picturesque beauty and vibrant colors. I now can really appreciate the fall. I used to hate the fall because with autumn came the wind and the rain, the bitter enemies of a man suffering from thinning hair or baldness. Those of you out there with thinning hair or baldness know exactly what I'm talking about. But thanks to DiStefano Hair Restoration, I no longer consider the rain and wind my enemies. I no longer check the mirror at every given opportunity. Thanks to DiStefano Hair Restoration, I now have a full head of hair again, and I don't have to worry what my hair looks like anymore. And no matter where you are in New England, DiStefano Hair Restoration is just a short drive away. Stop procrastinating. Call now and get a free IGT consultation. Plus, third-party financing is available.
So now, as far as your belief is that while Ted Kennedy was walking past all these houses back towards the party house where we're broadcasting from now, Mary Jo was still alive.
Thank you.
That is correct. And she would have been alive probably for about an hour, you think?
I think that's most reasonable, and if an hour is not longer, that's correct.
If not.
I'm here with Dr. Bruce Houghton from Perfect Smiles in Nashua, New Hampshire. You get a lot of patients, I'm sure, who are apprehensive about veneers. What are some of the questions and fears you get when you're dealing with new patients?
Some people think it could look too fake, but true cosmetic dentistry is incredibly most dentists are just surprised that we can create what we can create nowadays. Everyone is different. Everyone has different facial dimensions, different bone structure, and we do everything we can to individualize treatment because there is no one perfect smile. It is your perfect smile.
Dr. Houghton, where can people find you?
So you can find us at perfectsmiles.com or call 844-A-PERFECT-SMILE. 844-A-PERFECT-SMILE.
Yeah, that was old line.
All right,
I was
so
looking
Grace,
around
did
for
you
one of
turn
those
your mic
old.
up?
I wanted one of the old style. You know, like at the shops across the street from Fenway, you can get all the old time jerseys. You know, like you can get Williams or Yastrzemski and all this. I was looking around for the old, really old, the old Cowboys ones. I wanted A guy named D.D. Lewis.
Yep.
He was
Did
a
you turn your
redneck
mic up?
From
No, I just
linebacker
switched
from
mics with
Mississippi
Howie.
State.
Yeah, but so now you're going to sound low and far away, so you need to turn yours up.
I just can't figure out which one is mine and which one's his, because the wires. Actually, hey Steve, can you go over the Comrex and go to the local thing and then turn one up and we'll see if it makes Howie's louder or mine. It's just hard to figure out which one's which.
Turn one up, got it. Local, you said local side?
Yeah, the local feed. Our headsets are good, so I think that's the return.
Tell me, I'm raising it slowly. I don't want to.
Okay. Taylor, tell me if mine's getting louder, because it might be mine or it might be Howie's.
I'm raising it slowly.
No, I think it's
I think
Howie's.
it's Howie's.
Yeah, you can go turn it back to what it was, and then the other one.
Two, then I guess.
Yeah. So raise that one slowly, please.
Slowly raising it.
Hello, 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 hello.
Yeah, we're going to have to work with it. We're coming back.
Keep blowing it.
Go ahead.
844-500-4242. For those of you who are paying close attention at home, you may have noticed that Grace and I have switched seats because I have a better mic on this side,
Yeah, that mic's crystal clear.
and I am the boss, after all. 844-500-4242, 844-500-4242. I hope everybody had a pleasant Thanksgiving weekend, not too many disputes at the dinner table. I went to the Cowboys-Bills game, and I had a great time. The only disputes were that the fans in Dallas were pretty disappointed by the Cowboys. They thought they had a good team, and I kept pointing out to all weekend long to the Dallas fans, as Bill Parcells always used to say, you are what your record says you are. You know, you're not what your clippings say you are, or what they said in Vegas before the season were your odds of getting to the Super Bowl. If you're 6-6, you're 6-6.
It's like you always say, you're only as good as your last column.
Right. That's or your last anything for that matter. Today's poll question is brought to you by the all-new 3-row 2019 Subaru Ascent, featuring symmetrical all-wheel drive. Love is now bigger than ever. Taylor, what's the poll question? What are the results thus far?
Are you taking advantage of any Cyber Monday deals?
No, the only thing I'm doing is unsubscribing to all the people who are sending them to me unsolicited, these deals, purported deals.
Yeah, 14% say they are going to take advantage of one.
All right. It was a big day. They said it was the biggest Black Friday ever, though, I guess, or it was up 25% from last year, which I assume it was the biggest day ever. But I think a lot of it was a disproportionate amount of the sales compared to previous years were online.
$9 billion, they said. It was close to $9 billion.
That's the bad news for brick and mortar. The good news is that there were more people than ever were buying online and for pickups at places like Target or Walmart. The stores that are more tuned in to dealing with the online age. I was going to say phenomenon, but it's more than a phenomenon. It's a new it's new age. It's not going away. It's not a fad. What do you got, Grace?
Okay, so I wanted to talk about Bloomberg. They decided that they will not be investigating
Bloomberg, the
News.
Organization.
Bloomberg News.
Yeah.
They said they're not going to investigate Mike Bloomberg or any Democrats running for president, but they will continue to.
Wait a second, Grace. How is that any different than any other time? That's the way it always is. They never investigate anybody other than Republicans.
Well, it's funny you should ask, because I think the New York Post wrote something like a Republican said, this is no different than anything that's happened in the past, but most news organizations aren't as open about their bias. So Trump and the White House decided, listen, you can do that, but you're not getting press credentials. You're not coming to the rallies. It's not fair.
Oh, that's the Trump people said that? That's good. I'm glad they said that.
A spokesperson said they pulled their credentials. I don't know if they can still get into the White House, because that might be a bigger fish to fry if you ban them from the White House, but they said they're not going to invite
You just stand in line outside, right?
Yeah.
Get the tour like everybody else.
But it makes sense. Like, imagine a news
If you're lucky,
organization.
Conan will be there. You can pet him.
or Kojak.
Former Vice President Joe Biden used to be known for making. That's right, he did. He used to be known for a lot of stuff.
A lot of
Beautiful
gas.
dog. A talented dog.
It's funny, though, because they go to the White House or they ask President Trump these questions, and they always have the idea like, oh, we're fair, we're equal. Now you're just saying, listen, we're coming to these things to question you, to put out bad press about you, and we're telling you right now we're not going to do this about anyone who's running against you. Why would you have them there? That's like inviting someone to your birthday who says, just so you know, I'm going to knock over your cake and eat all the food and kick all your presents off the table. Do I still get to come to the party? No.
So that's like inviting Howie.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been reading the New York Times all weekend because we're staying at a hotel where it was in the lobby for free. So I would at least go buy it. So Joe DeGenova wanted to talk about it, one of the headlines that was in it, but there was another one today. Speaking of press bias, there've been these riots going on in Iran, right? Hundreds of people have been killed by the autocratic Shiite Muslim fundamentalist regime, the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. They killed hundreds of their own citizens. The citizens are protesting the autocratic dictatorship, the fascist theocracy that's put them down for 40 years. They want freedom. They want to be in the West. Here's the headline in the New York Times. This was the lead headline on the front page. Top of the page. As angry citizens staged protests, Iran opened fire, a toll in the hundreds. Details are emerging of actions by leaders under strain. Leaders under strain. They're killing their own people. The only strain is reloading the guns to kill their own citizens who are protesting. But the fact is, Trump doesn't like them. So as far as the New York Times is concerned, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they're basically, a front page headline is basically defending the mullahs in Iran for killing hundreds of their own citizens.
TDS.
Details
people.
are. How about this? How about this from what's going on in Germany in March 1945? Details are emerging of actions by leaders under strain. They were fleeing into the bunker in Berlin. Admiral Donitz was heading for the North Sea to get on a submarine, a U-boat, to escape.
But
they were leaders under strain. Don't you understand?
Howie, 808 points out it could have been a lot worse. They could have been austere religious scholars under strain.
That's exactly right. That's not quite as bad as austere religious scholars, but it's close. It's close. I'm Howie Carr.
It's wisely written. All things come to those who wait. Case in point, it's Matthew's Carol's time. The long drought is over, and you can now quench your thirst and nurture your soul with our heartfelt yet accurate lyrics.
Matthew's Brothers makes our windows all the way up north in Belfast, Maine. Even though we're in New England, we build them to withstand a hurricane. Rain will spatter, teeth will chatter. We trudge on through the blinding snow and get to work. For 165 years, it's a legacy we will not shirk. We know that we're not great singers. We were told to practice and said we did. Still, our carols sound way better than that one from Rennie's or Carr's for Kids.
And fired 2 blasts. They're gonna put you all back in chains. Give me a break. That's a bunch.
Thank you, New England.
Long haul, but we can't get enough of his gaffes.
Okay.
Here's the best of Uncle Joe speaking before he thinks.
We choose truth over facts. When the stock market crashed, Franklin Roosevelt got on television. Make sure you have the record player on at night. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Okay, all right. Well, you can frack with me later, okay? The teachers are kind. I'm married to a teacher. My deceased wife is a teacher. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. I can tell you, and I've known 8 presidents. 3 of the minimum. If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me. Had over 40 kids shot at Kent State on a beautiful lawn. I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? I said something that was not meant the way I said. I mean, what is it that I said wrong? I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry.
We're getting Joe on the phone right now, Howie.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
844-500-4242. That is the toll-free number of the Howie Carr Show. And
he's on.
I have to start today with Joe DeGenova, the former U.S. Attorney in D.C., to get his take on what Lisa Page is up to by giving this slobbering interview to Erica Jong's daughter, Molly Jong Fast. And I don't think Molly Jong has covered too many criminal trials. I don't think she's covered too many bureaucracies from this. I mean, it's like something that a high school freshman would write, somebody who's never been inside a courtroom in her life. But Joe, what is going on here? What is Lisa Page trying to do here? Is she trying to get ahead of the report? I thought there were stories last week that she had cut a deal, that she'd flipped. But this doesn't indicate that she's flipped to me. What's going on?
Well, I think she was well, first of all, it's pretty clear she's not going to be charged, because otherwise she would not be making any public statements. But I never anticipated that Lisa Page would be charged anyway, because she is a figure of so little significance in this whole thing, other than the text messages, which reflect the kind of, as you might imagine, not only bias, but a vicious vitriol and animus toward the President of the United States. So I have no doubt that she will be treated harshly, to say the least, in the Inspector General's report. But it always seemed a reach to me, absent some sort of evidence that she corrupted a FISA application or did some other things, which she was not close to Bruce Orr or any of those people or Glenn Simpson. She's kind of a peripheral figure, although she took on a great significance in the public sense because of her crazy text messages with Peter Strzok. So what's amazing about this is that she actually thinks, as a disgraced former FBI employee, that she can say things like this about the President of the United States. But it's not surprising, since the Navy Secretary, now gone, did exactly the same thing.
Yeah, well, he said that it was unprecedented that the chief executive officer of the United States of America would try to exercise his constitutional duties to oversee the Defense Department. He said it was unprecedented.
I think what you see in that particular Navy secretary is a really high school belief in himself as some arbiter of what constitutes being commander-in-chief under Article 2 of the Constitution. I'm afraid the Navy secretary is like a lot of people in the bureaucracy that we saw testify during the phony Schiff impeachment inquiry, and that is they disagree with the president on policy, and they think that even though they weren't elected, they're more important than he is. And in this case, Secretary Spencer, the Secretary of the Navy, made an egregious judgment, and everything he says about why he did what he did is completely contrary to the chain of command. The President of the United States is the commander-in-chief. That means that he can intervene at any time he chooses, at any layer of the disciplinary system in the military. It shows that the Navy Secretary probably should not have been Navy Secretary.
Yeah, they're acting like all these people, whether they're from the State Department or the Navy Secretary, they're acting like it's a poker game and everybody gets dealt 5 cards and has the same chance to win. This is not what this is. It's not a bull session at the frat house. How can they?
Well,
how can they not understand that?
Well, it's pretty clear that because Trump is who he is, and that the media does not hold accountable people like Spencer, and that the media actually lavishes praise upon people like Spencer for defying the President of the United States as part of the resistance, that they think they can do this. And Lisa Page is an example of it. James Comey, the disgraced former FBI director, who has done more damage to the FBI than Hansen or any of the other Russian spies who worked inside the FBI. It's really quite amazing.
Yeah, let me just read you this stuff. She's convinced. This is from the story in the Daily Beast about Lisa Page, the girlfriend of Peter Strzok. She is convinced that she's followed the rules. She is, after all, a lawyer and knows that she is a restricted employee under the Hatch Act and can't engage in partisan political activity. I mean, I was trying to think when I read that, I was trying to think how many lawyers I know that have been disbarred. Sometimes I think I know more lawyers that have been disbarred than have not been disbarred. I mean, what is it? So just because she has a law degree, that means she can't do anything wrong? She doesn't think for a minute that her texts with Peter Strzok are too political. They are largely devoted to work. But the work is trying to overthrow the duly elected president of the United States.
Well, of course, this is strange work she was doing. But more importantly, as a counterintelligence lawyer, she knew that by having an affair with Peter Strzok, that made her subject to blackmail by foreign intelligence services. And in so doing, she betrayed the country. She betrayed all of us. She betrayed the President of the United States. She betrayed the law. She betrayed the loyal employees of the FBI. She is the one who broke the most important rules of all. Forget her text messages. Her affair with Peter Strzok made her a likely candidate for blackmail with all the knowledge she had of counterintelligence activities and operations.
Right.
So whatever she may think about her text messages, she's pretty close to a traitor.
Right, and she even acknowledges that in this story, Joe DeGeneva. What I do know is that my text messages will reveal that I had previously had an affair. I'm overwhelmed by dread and embarrassment at the prospect that OIG investigators, Inspector General Andy, and my colleagues now know or could learn about this deeply personal secret. My understanding is that they had a pretty good idea that they were playing doctor with the shades drawn. I mean, how they're together all the time, and they're playing footsie under the under McCabe's $70,000 conference table. You telling me she didn't know? Or McCabe didn't know this?
The truth is, all of her supervisors knew, and none of them did anything about it, including warning them. So what you have from all of her supervisors is a dereliction of duty. And all the more reason that all of them should have been fired, which they were, or transferred, or relieved of their duties. Lisa Page is a classic example of a bad lawyer who got a great government job, who wasn't up to the task, and when it really mattered, she cared more about her sex life than she did about the United States of America.
How about when she says, "I grew up there"? She got the job at age 33. What do you mean? What happened for the first 33?
Orgasm. Sounds like it may have been her first orgasm. Who knows?
I'm sorry. I'm just so amused by this whole story. Now she's talking about her life now. She goes on the subway. If I'm walking down the street or shopping and there's somebody wearing a Trump gear or a MAGA hat, I'll walk the other way or try to put some distance between us because I'm not looking for comment. Joe, I don't live in D.C. You do. How many people do you see on the metro or walking the streets down on Union Station wearing a MAGA hat?
Well, you know what? It's a dangerous pastime to wear a MAGA hat here in D.C. You find yourself confronted by what I call the Antifa chorus, the antiphonal chorus of hawks and hawks. I mean, this is a pretty nasty lot down here. And Lisa Page, believe me, doesn't have to worry about the MAGA people. It's the MAGA people that have to worry about people like Lisa Page.
Right, exactly. Right up to and including the president of the United States. It's really something. Do you know anything more about the report? Is it? We talked about this last week. Is it going to be a whitewash or is it going to be a scathing document?
It's very difficult to tell. What I was told before was that it was severely damaging. It was grotesque in its factual findings. Now here's the deal with Horowitz. The facts in the Struck Page text message report are devastating. They are simply devastating facts. The conclusions that he drew from them, which is that there were no decisions were influenced by the obvious political bias reflected in the text messages, the conclusion was ludicrous. And some people have argued that, well, he didn't really say that. It was a much more nuanced finding. Well, actually, I'm not looking for nuance when we're talking about people subverting the national law enforcement process and subverting the Constitution of the United States. Whatever Ms. Page thinks of herself and her qualities as a lawyer, she was party to subverting the Constitution of the United States and subverting a national election. And I'm sure
Joe, you're just cherry picking. You're just cherry picking.
So she can justify her behavior. She has to say some of these very stupid things.
Well, Joe, I was going to say to you, she says that they're just cherry picking a few texts here and there. It's kind of like when you indict a gangster, you cherry pick. You cherry pick all the murders he committed, right? You don't talk about the times he sent a turkey for Thanksgiving over to somebody's house. You cherry pick the crimes he committed. This is really something. Hey, listen, I saw your notes, what you wanted to talk about, and I noticed the same thing yesterday. A front page headline in the New York Times. There was another one today about the Iranian leaders under stress. They're shooting their own people, and they called them leaders under stress because they don't like Trump, so they have to be
Leaders under stress.
Yeah. So, but yesterday, tell us about the story you were talking about, the SEAL, the story of the SEAL and the Navy secretary. You got the headline in front of you. I got it in front of me.
Yeah, it says favoring of SEAL tests tolerance of the Pentagon. Now stumps for Trump. Intervention by president who never served chafes military. I said they must be talking about Obama.
Right.
When they said he never served in the military. I mean, at least Trump went to military school.
Well, I seem to recall that when Clinton was running for president, people were saying, well, do you want a draft dodger or do you want a war hero, whether it was George H.W. Bush or Bob Dole, both of whom, were in combat. They said, we have a system in this country where the commander-in-chief is a civilian, whether he served or not. We don't live in a military junta like in South America, but now it's a badge of dishonor that Trump is a civilian. Again, the double standard.
Sure, the secondary headline on the inside says, high-profile case of a SEAL tests the patience of the Pentagon. Well, you know what? I'm delighted that it's testing their patience. And the performance of the Navy secretary was such an embarrassment to the Defense Department, and my mind keeps going back. Every time I read something like this, I think of that sleazeball Vindman, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, that little piece of work from Ukraine who made such what a pompous ass. This little sniveling little lieutenant colonel who demanded to be called lieutenant colonel instead of Mr.
Yeah, there were so many pompous asses, so many officious bureaucrats at that hearing. There was another column in the New York Times. Again, I had a chance to read it because I got it for free. It was a woke black person, Joe, and even he said he can't. His eyes were glazing over trying to watch the impeachment hearings. He couldn't do it. He just gave up and watched some weird show instead.
Well, the problem with those hearings was that they were a lie, a public lie put on not for the purpose of educating the public, but for the purpose of smearing the President of the United States. There was nothing there to warrant a hearing. But Mr. Schiff and Ms. Pelosi and Ms. Nadler have made up their mind that they're going to impeach this president, and they are going to. They're going to have a vote, and in all likelihood, they will succeed, and he will be impeached. And it will go to the Senate, and he will be acquitted. And during that period of time, the American people will pay little, if any, attention. I'm sure an impeachment trial in the Senate would get a lot of attention, but it will be meaningless. And it will be another farce that is wasting the American people's time. I mean, this guy, I tell you, what Trump has gone through is one of the most remarkable disgraces in the history of the country. But the Democrats are so drunk for power, so thirsty for power, that this is all they want to do. And it is so sad. I feel so sorry for this president. I love this guy. He's not a perfect vessel, but you know what? He's the vessel the people chose.
I know none of us are perfect vessels, and that's what makes this story so ironic. That Lisa Page tries to bring this guy down based on absolutely nothing, and she gets caught with her hand in the cookie jar, and now she's complaining. She's like the person who kills the parents and then says, "You can't convict me, you can't send me to prison, judge, because I'm an orphan." Now she's an orphan, and she's throwing herself on the mercy of the court. It's ridiculous.
Well, her explanations show, I think, a shallowness and a lack of the kind of stature you would expect in a lawyer working for the FBI. In fact, she's part of a parade of people, McCabe, Strzok, all of these weaselly little people, James Baker, they're really quite a sad representation
Right.
of the FBI when you go back and you look at who Jim Comey surrounded himself with.
I know.
And you talk to former
Yes,
FBI
men.
agents like James Kallstrom, they are embarrassed. And believe me, so are the people who work in that building today.
Yeah. Joe DeGeneva, thank you very much. We'll have so much to talk about next week when the report actually comes out from the Inspector General, one way or the other. I look forward to talking to you. Always a pleasure. Thanks for being with us. I'm Howie Carr.
Don't touch that dial. How
I got this wooden fort from FAO Schwartz in Palm Beach, about the age of 6 or 7, 10 soldiers to go along with it. It's such a cool fort. I had that fort for like maybe close to 10 years.
What is your all-time favorite movie?
Probably Goodfellas. I love Goodfellas. I love it even more than The Godfather.
What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably chocolate ice cream, followed by vanilla ice cream, followed by coffee ice cream.
Hi, my name's Jane Lucas, and I am from the town of South China, Maine.
This is Al from Merrimack, New Hampshire.
Hi, I'm Angela from Brewster on the Cape, and this is the one and the only Howie Carr Show.
844-500-4242. That is the toll-free number of the Howie Carr Show, and we'll be taking a lot more calls in the next upcoming segments here. And we'll be talking about Lisa Page and Joe Biden. The president is flying to London for a European summit, and it's a very interesting day in the news. And again, I think Lisa Page has once again misread the tea leaves here with her interview, trying to cover herself and get ahead of the Inspector General's report. We'll talk more about this when we come back. I'm Howie Carr.
Fall in New England, known for its
844-500-4242. That is the toll-free number of the Howie Carr Show. Apparently, Lisa Page has forgotten the old lines of the song, "Don't do the crime if you can't do the time." She was just another paper shuffler in the Justice Department, just a career public servant. She had no great ambitions. She just wanted to cheat on her husband and overthrow the duly elected constitutional government of the United States of America.
Are you a scorned woman?
I guess she is scorned now by Peter Strzok, because they ain't texting back and forth no more.
Isn't that every girl's dream, though?
What?
What you just said.
To go to work every day and get paid as a GS-15 to overthrow the elected government of the United States of America?
Yeah.
And then why does President Trump hate her so much? She was just trying to frame him for a crime he didn't commit, and then throw him out of office and into jail for nothing. And then now he's angry about that. How dare he? How dare he?
How dare you?
If you don't want to take the time to read the story, that sums it up. That's her message to Donald Trump. How dare you? Time now for the Chump Line.
I don't know about an orgasm, but Lisa Page sure knows how to fake evidence.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't ask Joe DeGeneva about that. She allegedly edited the Michael Flynn 302, the original FBI incident report that was written either by her boyfriend or by her boyfriend's partner in the FBI. It's still unclear. They've told conflicting stories about that. They wanted to frame this guy, Michael Flynn. They did frame him. And that's another thing I was reading over the weekend. Darkness at Noon. It's a famous novel. His name is Arthur Koestler. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's about a guy who's framed for something he didn't do by a totalitarian state. It's Joe Stalin's Soviet Union. But it's remarkably similar to what they did to Michael Flynn.
I just heard in London they're putting a 7-day waiting period on fake narwhal tusks and fire extinguishers.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That guy, a Polish chef, took that tusk and he attacked the Muslim savage with it. And what was that guy doing out? I mean, it really is amazing. They have obviously the UK and the United States. We really are cousin countries, aren't we? We have the same problem. Our problem is with MS-13 gangbangers and rapists and drunk drivers in Montgomery County, Maryland, and every other jurisdiction in the United States. Their problem is with Pakistanis coming into the country and committing these terrorist acts, or the children of Pakistani immigrants. The Chump Line, I almost said the Trump Line. The Trump Line, Chump Line is brought to you every weekday at this time by Matthews Brothers, America's oldest window manufacturer. And yes, thanks to this horrible, wretched Trump economy, we're still going gangbusters. We still need a lot of help on our second shift. So come on up and join us in Vacation Land, USA. That's what they used to call Maine back in the old days, Vacation Land. Apply on land. It still is Vacation Land in many ways, but in a different way. Apply online at MatthewsBrothers.com. And yup, somebody still didn't do something to themselves.
Just wondering where the hell you got that ugly tie that you had on Friday night with Mark Stein. How far did you chase that homeless guy to get it? Man, I knew you were cheap, but wow.
Brandon, why wouldn't you save that for hate mail? You know I need those messages.
Jay from Chelsea just sent me a nasty note about that.
Yeah, I have some in written form, but I like to have the audio.
once again proving it doesn't matter that my comments were brilliant and spot on. It was just the fact
You do
that
say so yourself.
I was sold the bill of goods. I was more concerned about the winged collar. You know, that's what really. I went to the guy, Grace, and I said, I don't know about this collar. I got to do TV. Is this collar going to work on TV? No problems, Mr. Carr.
You should have listened to your fashion instincts, Howie, obviously.
Did you see it?
I did. I did not think that you looked bad. I thought you looked great. And also, Tucker's people reached out to me and said, you did an excellent job from Dallas.
Oh, they did. That's good. I'm glad they said that. It was a. I told the woman who was making me up. I said, tie that tie tight. And she said, I don't want to make it too tight. And I said, it's better if I if I get choked than to have the tie looking weird like that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Hey, is Creepy Joe going to be wearing a Santa suit on the No Malarkey tour? Somebody better do a Corey check on this weirdo.
You know the old movie Citizen Kane, and he says Rosebud, and then they spend the whole movie going through it. Why did he say Rosebud? And then it's the name of his sleigh when he was a kid. I think when Joe
thanks
Biden
for spoiling that one too.
That movie's been out for a while, right?
Yeah, I think people have had a chance to see that one. So I think when they make a movie about Joe Biden, he's going to be and the first word's going to be corn pop, because apparently this summer at this public swimming pool was one of the most pivotal times of his life.
So much is going on.
I know the straight razors and the water barrels, the confrontations, the chains that he gets from the janitor, and now these weird kids that just want to stroke his legs.
Yeah, it sounds like a really creepy musical from the 1950s.
And don't forget, it does have another aspect of an old style horror movie.
What's
Bugs.
That? Oh yeah.
When he throws in roaches. Roaches.
Was he talking about bugs or joints?
I don't think he's a cannabis kind of guy. He's a non-compos mentis kind of a guy, but not a cannabis type of guy.
Oh, we can handle the temperature, we can handle the snow, we can handle all the shoveling, but 30 more minutes of grace? Good God, I hate this weather!
Was that a hate towards me?
What do you think? Why don't you say I didn't come here to be made sport of?
The chair detects the needle. And also, yet again, that would have been great for hate mail. This is what happens when I leave, Howie. They start using the hate mail and the chump line.
It's every man for himself. They want a good chump line, so they're killing your hate mail segment.
Exactly.
Howie, with every shovel full of snow, I see your stupid face living it up in Palm Beach. Enjoy it, you rotten bastard.
Should we dine al fresco this evening, Grace? Out on Royal Ponciana Way?
Why don't you ask Mrs. Fresco first?
Taylor, it's Howie. I hear you're getting some global warming in Massachusetts. That's funny. It's so sunny and warm down here that I was turning eyes this morning by wearing open-toed sandals at the pool. I guess folks just aren't ready to embrace black toe. So long, Sonny.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it was kind of nippy in Dallas for the last 5 days, but it wasn't. It was still no snow. It was still better than what you guys are getting. I hate to tell you.
While walking past the pool, did you show everybody your blonde-haired legs?
I don't think I have blonde hair on my legs, but I mean, and then didn't he say that his hair wasn't normally blonde, but when he was out in the sun, it would turn blonde? It was just there were so many off elements of that 30 seconds or however long it was.
Howie, I'm going to give you 4 letters to describe what Joe Biden's problem is. Ready? 4 letters. TMI. 4 letters.
Get it? Get it, folks?
Joe, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Especially if that hand's going to be feeding you baby food in the near future.
Oh.
And how about that jacket he was wearing too? I mean, that looked like something from the old folks' home, didn't it?
But I blame Dr. Jill for a lot of this too. She is perfectly capable of seeing what's going on here. She should be saying to Joe, this isn't right. We shouldn't have done this. It's time to back off the campaign trail. She shouldn't be encouraging him, sticking her fingers out there for him to eat.
That wasn't that I mean, I'm again, maybe based on my last appearance, I'm not the guy to be making the fashion critiques here.
But go ahead, because we know you will.
But didn't that look like a modified cardigan sweater? And isn't a cardigan sweater at this point in time generally associated with very, very old people? Am I wrong, Grace?
No, you're not wrong, but I mean, we've got plenty of hate on your outfits coming up, so we should refrain.
That was your last chump line message. Thank you for calling Howie Carr, you chump.
That's it for the Chump Line today. The Chump Line is the recorded voicemail message service of the Howie Carr Show. You can call and leave a message at any hour of the day or night, including weekends. The Chump Line number, if you'd like to leave such a message, is 844-500-4242. 844-500-4242. Press 2 for the Chump Line. Leave your message. We may or may not play your message at this time each weekday. The Chump Line is brought to you by Matthews Brothers, America's oldest window manufacturer. And yes, thanks to this horrible, wretched Trump economy, we're still going gangbusters. We still need a lot of help on our second shift. So come on up and join us in Vacation Land, USA. Apply online at MatthewsBrothers.com. That's Matthews Brothers with one T. And yep, someone still didn't do something to themselves.
Hey, is Creepy Joe going to be wearing a Santa suit on the No Malarkey tour? Somebody better do a Corey check on this weirdo.
All right. You've been hearing me talk about the super beats for a while now, and I'm sure some of you are still thinking, why super beats? You can take it from me. The benefits of super beats are incredible. Whenever I take a little snifter of super beats right before the show, I have a burst of energy. Most people put it in water, but you can just eat it right from the jar, and it gives you the boost. It's really great. Grace uses it. Taylor uses it. We're gonna get some more. We ran out a little while ago, and I've been missing it. And it's just a really, really good product. If that doesn't convince you, we can talk about the science behind super beats, because this isn't some kind of placebo that makes you think you're feeling better. There is science behind this. Beets have nitrates. Nitrates support better blood flow, and better blood flow equals better energy and efficiency throughout your body, and even supports healthy blood pressure. But super beets does so much more than eating regular beets and is unparalleled compared to other beet powders. Just one scoop of super beets has the nitric oxide equivalent of 3 whole beets, and it tastes a lot better. I'm not a big beet guy like a lot of people aren't, but super beets is not like anything that grandma used to try to feed you when you were a kid. The science team behind super beets has conducted 11 clinical trials and was even given the Science Award by the Nutrition Business Journal. This level of research is unheard of in the nutrition category. Everything in super beets is backed by science. These are some of the reasons I love super beets and why it's worked for me and for Grace and for Taylor. To try super beets risk-free for 90 days, visit www.superbeetsradio.com/Howie and get a free 30-day supply, free shipping, and free nitric oxide strips to test your nitric oxide levels with your first purchase. www.superbeetsradio.com/Howie. www.superbeetsradio.com/Howie. I'm Howie Carr.
Keep it here. The captain.
is Alex from East Bridgewater, Mass.
This is Ann in Saco, Maine.
This is John Zuko from Hanson, Mass. And this is the Howie Carr Show.
844-500-4242. At this time, every Monday afternoon, we like to check in with our fan base.
That's a really, really nice way to put it. Yes, it is time for Hate Mail Monday. As always, it is.
Let the hate flow through you.
We're letting the hate flow. It's powered by Piantosi Baking Company, celebrating over 100 years of baking excellence. We don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to get to my favorite piece of hate mail, which was in an email. Grace, you know I'm a great fan of Howie, but when I saw him on TV Friday, I had to wonder why he's shopping.
Wait a second. What is there an echo in here? Haven't we been hearing about this for like about a half an hour about how badly dressed I was down in Dallas on Friday night?
Oh, yeah, because you never harp on anyone else when you have something to make fun of them for.
Do you think I would mention that Lisa Page bears a resemblance to a certain equine television character of the past?
It says, I had to wonder why he's shopping for clothes in a homeless shelter. Wrong jacket, horrible shirt, wrong color tie, and who the hell tied it?
That was all. Those were all new fashion accessories that I got down in Palm Beach, and the guy sold me a bill of goods on the shirt, but that was a nice tie. That jacket was very expensive. I wore that jacket on the plane. Didn't it look good today when I walked in the studio? When I walked in, at Newsmax here, Grace?
Your voice keeps getting higher and higher, which is making me think you're really feeling the hot lights right now. Who the hell tied it?
How dare you? Could attack me as much as you want, pal, but you don't attack my tie, okay, or my powder blue sport coat. And you know what? You're going to be seeing a lot of that this winter.
Oh, that's a threat right there. Some tie robot? If you know how to dress
a tie
men,
robot. It was the woman, the makeup woman at the Fox studio in Dallas.
Tie, T-I-E or T-H-A-I?
This person says, if you know
very funny.
If you know how to dress men, Grace, you better get a hold of Howie. Seriously, he's the worst dressed guest on TV. Do I even need to read anymore? I feel like that summarizes the hate of the day. Thank you, Piantosi Baking Company. My favorite part of the week.
I can't believe it. I didn't come here to be made sport of. I'm Howie Carr.
Here's how it works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours too. If your 401k, your SEP, your IRA, whatever, is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying much about those quarterly statements. But lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally meant rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the only precious metals company I trust. Give Orion a call to get a free, no obligation
Go ahead.
844-500-4242. As you know, the president is in Europe or on his way to Europe for the summit conference with the European leaders. And so the House of Representatives has decided to continue this charade of impeachment hearings. Jerry Nadler, the Judiciary Committee chairman, is going to have his Star Chamber beginning on Wednesday. They're going to bring in a bunch of professors to discuss the meaning of impeachment, as if we can't read the Constitution for ourselves and come to our own conclusions. And the chairman of the Intelligence Committee has given his members, that would be Adam Schiff, the pencil neck from Framingham, Massachusetts, now living in Burbank, California, 24 hours to read whatever he's put out there. So joining us now on the line is Tony Sayegh. He's a senior advisor for the President of the United States to discuss this charade that's going on just in time for the Christmas season. Tony, thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
Howie, great to be with you and your listeners.
I thought there was some kind of North American trade deal that was supposed to take precedence. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are involved in this. Especially it's especially important for dairy farmers in Wisconsin, among many other groups of people. But we're not going to get any action on that, are we?
Howie, a year ago this past weekend, the president successfully renegotiated the failed NAFTA trade agreement with two of our biggest trading partners, Mexico to the south and Canada to the north. It's been languishing under Nancy Pelosi's watch in Congress. We know there's strong bipartisan support for many reasons. You talked about dairy farmers. It's good for manufacturers and workers, and it's great for American consumers. It opens up, obviously, major markets to our products and gets products into our company at better prices. So the fact that Nancy Pelosi and others have allowed what you call the sham, and I think we all agree, of this impeachment to dominate, completely eclipse any progress on passing the USMCA, any progress on passing a budget, which is going to expire in a matter of weeks, by the way. We need our military funded. We need our border secured, and we now have another situation where we're coming up against a deadline with the budget. And instead, they're going to use their 8 remaining days of legislative days in Congress focused on impeachment, focused on a hyper-partisan, pointless, and unsubstantiated claim that the president did anything remotely impeachable, and that's really a sad state and testament to where we are in our country today.
Tony Sayegh, where is the House Speaker right now? I guess she must be in Washington, given the prayerful consideration of impeachment that's going to be taking place here, right? She is inside the Capitol, right? This is I'm just tossing them up, one softball after another. Tony, where is she? In case people haven't noticed.
I think your sixth sense has kicked in, because it's obviously reported that the speaker is in Madrid right now with a delegation focused on climate change. And listen, the bottom line remains, when you really contrast how Democrats have focused their time and energy these last 3 months, where the speaker is at this current moment, is what it is. I'll tell you where the president is. He's on his way to London to meet with our NATO allies to focus on issues of national and international security. And NATO is actually a perfect example of what the Democrats have wrongly suggested is impeachable in the case of the Ukraine, whereas the president did not like the fact that for decades NATO member countries had not been paying their fair share to support NATO and put 2% of their budgets into defense of NATO. The president negotiated with those allies, and many came up with the money, and now we have an additional $100 billion of funding into NATO that comes from other countries, not just us and our taxpayers. This is essentially part of the issue with Ukraine. He wanted our European allies to share in the burden of funding and protecting Ukraine, while also having the country look into some of the long-standing issues they've had with corruption. There was no precondition for a meeting. There was no precondition, as we learned from all the testimony on the aid getting released. And by the way, every witness, Howie, testified to the fact that this was better aid, stronger aid than was given to Ukraine during the Obama administration, because the president gave them the lethal military assistance they needed vis-a-vis the Javelin missiles.
You know, I used to cover the city of Boston, and I also covered the Commonwealth of Massachusetts state government, and both of those entities and every other entity in the United States, every other jurisdiction, gets federal block grants. And you know what, Tony, as you well know, as everybody knows, they all have strings attached to them. They all have preconditions, right? You know, every federal grant is a quid pro quo. You know, the state has to agree to raise the speed limits or allow turns on red or, you know, whatever. Or ban certain types of drugs or what, you know, anything. Everything has strings attached. I don't understand. And you know what? The Democrats know this. The Democrats attach strings to grants, and to pretend otherwise is absurd.
Yeah. Well, listen, this is a completely hollow attempt by the Democrats on a strict partisan basis to try to do what they've been trying to do from day one, which is to remove the president. You know, it's crazy when you think about it, Howie, and I know a lot of your listeners live in the state of New Hampshire, where they're about to start voting in a few months in the first in the nation primary. This is the first time ever in our nation's attempt to replace an election result in 2016 with an impeachment, and an attempt to interfere in the 2020 election with an impeachment. And I think that's where you have people who are objective, who look at this situation and say, look, we could all have our opinions on what happened in this transcript and where we land on the policy. But at the end of the day, shouldn't the American people have the right to choose whether or not they want to return Donald Trump to the White House versus 230 politicians who clearly have a vendetta against the president? I mean, remember, the president won with 63 million votes. Now you have 231 people who potentially think they have the right to remove him and replace those 63 million voters. It's not the way our system's supposed to work.
And 14 of them are in Madrid, along with Nancy Pelosi. Did they take over her private jet, or did they fly commercial? Did they you know, because I looked at it, tried to look at a million stories last night, because I know she has not a private jet, but a jet at her disposal, and we pay for it, the taxpayers. I assume that's the jet that flew over there, but I don't know. Do you know?
Well, I will go with your assumption. I do think that it'd be curious to know the carbon footprint that it took to get her and her delegation to Spain.
Yeah, they're not on Charlotte Thunberg's sailboat. That's not how they're getting to the conference. Listen, what about Lisa Page's interview? You've seen it, the Lovebird FBI agent in the Daily Beast. It's this slobbering puff piece about how she was terribly tortured and ruined by the president referring to the so-called orgasms at the rally in Minnesota the other week. I mean, what is the White House's take on her saying that he's destroyed her life?
Well, listen, she has the right to give the whatever interview she wants to give. What she doesn't have a right to do is misuse her role, and that seems to certainly be something that evidence possibly substantiates. Now, what I will say though, and we're not going to get distracted by what others who've been part of a long-standing attempt to oppose and undermine this president are saying in the Daily Beast or anywhere else. What I will say is I think this is a very clear moment for the American people to focus on what's important. And we now have an election within a year of today that you literally have a part of our governmental system and political system, the Democratic Party, legitimately trying to suggest should not be the arbiter of whether or not the president should remain in office, that it should be a highly partisan, party line witch hunt that ultimately will be pointless because the chances of removal in the Senate are none. And this is what the Democratic Party thinks American voters care about. And they don't. They care about what you started talking about in the beginning of the show with me, Howie, which is trade deals that create jobs and create opportunities and bring in products that American consumers need. They care about their military and making sure the military is funded correctly. They care about securing the border, whether it's our southern border or our national security. And this is not what Democrats think we should be talking about right now. They think we should be talking about essentially whether or not they like the way the president conducted a phone call in which every single thing he did and said has been proven by their own star witnesses to not be impeachable, and certainly does not warrant the type of harassment he's received in the last 3 months over it.
Even the New York Times, which is, of course, the Bible of Trump derangement syndrome, they had at least one op-ed piece this weekend from some woke millennial saying that he couldn't even watch these hearings. They're so boring. I mean, do you think maybe the Democrats have totally overplayed their hand? But my second part of this question is, did you guys think about sending up a White House counsel or a lawyer, Jay Sekulow or somebody like that, to just go up there and bang on the table and yell and demand equal time? Was there any consideration of that?
Well, there would be consideration if we actually had a due process. What unfortunately is not getting enough recognition from the media certainly is the fact that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and Jerry Nadler have rigged the rules that absolutely force us to give up any of our constitutional rights, any of our rights to executive privilege in order to participate without their interference. They don't give us the right to call witnesses. In the Intelligence Committee, we didn't even have the right to introduce rebuttal evidence to anything that was said. So from the start, this has been an unfair, rigged process. And by the way, this is the first time it's ever been done this way. This is not how they did it during the Clinton impeachment. This is not how they did it during the Nixon impeachment trials. There was always an agreed-to process, but where two parties got to participate. So I think there really is no clear reason why we would go into a scenario where we know the system is so clearly rigged and wants to take away our due process rights. That's number one. So I will say, again, as we're preparing for this week, whether the American people are already speaking and they're responding to these hearings, whether they're boring or not boring, they're not proving anything. In fact, what they're proving is what we've been saying all along, which is the president has done nothing wrong, which is why, and I know people talk a lot about polls, but here are the two things, and I've been involved with strategy for a long time, Howie, and there's two very troubling things for Democrats in these polls. Number one, where they're losing tremendous supporters among independent voters. Number two, where they're losing some of the most significant support, and you're starting to see it in the head-to-head contest with Democrats against the president, are in the swing states that matter most. So this is where you're starting to see a complete free fall in support for impeachment. It really doesn't kind of matter what New York City and Los Angeles and San Francisco.
Well, how about the polls? How about the polls showing you that a third of the black population or the black male population has a favorable impression of President Trump? I mean, if those numbers are real, I don't know if they are or not. If they hold up, the Democrats don't have a prayer. And the other thing, how about all these statistics coming out about the post-Thanksgiving beginning of the holiday shopping season? I mean, these are record sales numbers. That means the American people are in a good mood. That means they're confident. That means they have money in their pocket. And that's not a good sign for the Democrats either, is it?
Well, listen, it's a good sign for the country, and I want to get back to a point where we can recognize that we have political differences, but at the very least, we should be supportive of things that are helping more and more Americans participate in the economy and meet their own, personal goals and financial goals. I mean, when you have the lowest unemployment in 50 years, when you have unemployment in the African-American community, the Hispanic community, and other demographics, the lowest they've been historically, when you have economic growth in the United States while the entire world is shifting downward because of the bad policies of their countries on economic matters. This is a point of pride for our country, and it's been done by a president who's been willing to disrupt a lot of norms, who understands to get more people involved with our economy, you have to change the way Washington treats them. And that's why you've also had, and this is very important, the greatest wage growth in over a decade. That's more money in people's paychecks for the first time in over a decade. And you know where it's the greatest, Howie? It's in the lowest 1/5 of wage earners have earned the highest percent of wage growth since Donald Trump has become president. And these are the things that we need to be focusing on, not sham impeachments on the phone transcripts that show he's done nothing wrong.
I agree, Tony. Tony Sayegh, Senior Advisor for the President of the United States, we appreciate you being with us. Thank you very much. I'm Howie Carr.
Don't touch that.
Hi, this is Val from Longmeadow, Mass.
Hi, this is Tony and Pietra from Haverhill, Massachusetts.
This is Myrnie in Fairfax County, Virginia, and this is the Howie Carr Show.
Devil with a blue dress on.
Bill Clinton.
Pundit with a blue sport coat on.
Uh-oh, don't bring that up again.
Today's poll question is brought to you by the all-new 3-row 2019 Subaru Ascent, featuring symmetrical all-wheel drive. Love is now bigger than ever. Taylor, what's the poll question? What are the results thus far?
Are you taking advantage of any Cyber Monday deals?
No, I'm not.
Yes, I am.
86% say they're not.
Feel free, though, to go to howiecarrshow.com and click on store for our great Cyber Week and more than a week deals. We have a great bunch of deals with books and T-shirts for $19.99. Some of the deals are worth up to $58. Those are the 3 book deals. That's the first Ratman #1 deal. Ratman #2. It's a Ratman. It's a Dirty Rats T-shirt and the book Ratman. Then we have the Kennedy Babylon books, $39 worth of books for $19.99. And we have, of course, the Deplorable T-shirt deal and a copy of What Really Happened, Donald Trump's favorite book on the campaign. Here it is. I'm holding it up right now. That's for $19.99, a $35 value. All of these available on Cyber Monday and beyond until supplies run out. For just $19.99, go to howiecarrshow.com, click on store. howiecarrshow.com, click on store.
That's a good deal.
It is.
Speaking of deals, Howie, a little birdie told me that you got a nice deal this weekend at dinner.
Thanksgiving dinner, yes. We were having dinner before the football game in the hotel. It was a pretty pricey meal that we were having. And we were sitting next to the four of us, 2 of my daughters and the mailroom manager. We were sitting there and we ordered the dinner. And when it came time to pay, the waitress said, "I've got a big surprise for you." "What is it?" "Your dinner is taken care of. It's been paid for."
Wow.
And there was a guy that had been sitting next to us all by himself. He had another guy with him. They were discussing business. And then he had 3 white eggs, and then he left. Just a millennial type guy. And he had picked up the tab for the 4 of us and for the table on the other side.
And you said, "Oh, we should have ordered way more."
It was Price Fix. I'm Howie Carr.
Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. It's everyone's favorite time of year. It's Matthew's Carol's time. So grab your songbook and jump right in.
Along the coast of
Lisa, I love you. Lisa! Lisa! Oh, God, I love you, Lisa.
Yes! 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 I'll have what she's having.
Who's your captain? Howie Carr.
I can only imagine how Lisa Page felt when she heard that. What did she share with the Daily Beast?
Yeah, I mean, she was horrified. She called it the straw that broke the camel's back.
That's what she said.
Unchained and unstoppable.
So we're on a no malarkey tour, meaning we're telling the truth. We're not going to lie. You know, we're about to launch a 6-day... And that's the reason I'm taking this 650-mile tour.
Former Vice President Joe Biden launched an 8-day, 800-mile blitz.
A 6-day... 650-mile tour. What's the schedule? What am I doing? I got hairy legs, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Am I the only one that was super creeped out by that?
Rump swabs, hacks, and moonbats beware. It's Howie Carr.
Welcome back to the Howie Carr Show. We haven't taken many calls today. We're going to take more calls this hour. I'm sorry, we've been busy back in the Sunshine State here today after the Thanksgiving break, and again it was a nice relaxing time off from the show. The mailroom manager and I did get some sad news over the weekend, and that was that one of our dear friends here in Florida, Bill Macaulay, has passed on right before Thanksgiving. He was a really good guy. He's one of our neighbors in Palm Beach, and he was an oil guy, and he's from New York City originally, and he lived in Greenwich, Connecticut, and Palm Beach, and he was just a great guy. Last year when I fell off the bike and shattered my elbow, I was in deep pain, and I had to get back to Boston to get an operation. It was on a Sunday, and I was going to have to go on a commercial flight, and I was medicated, definitely. But I was still in great pain, and you know how commercial air flights are. You know, you're bumping into people are bumping into you. It's just one of those things. It would have been just really an awful experience to have to fly back. And he just told he told me he had a private jet down here. He was going back to New York, and he said, just come on the plane. Come on, you and the mailroom manager, come on with me. And that's the kind of guy he was. He would do anything to help people. And it's just, I've been reading the obituary, the paid notices in the New York Times, all of the charities that he contributed to. He and his wife Linda, over the years, they've just been talking about how much they're going to miss him and how great he was and how generous he was. He was from the Bronx originally, and he went to City University in New York. I mean, he was just a middle class guy, and he never forgot his roots, and he set up scholarship programs at CUNY and all kinds of great charity events. Just a wonderful person, and he passed on right before Thanksgiving at the age of 74, and he was just such a decent guy. I mean, I get along with all my neighbors in Palm Beach, but this was a guy, he and his wife Linda, these were people we like to actually spend time with and hang out with, eat lunch with. And he had two great daughters, has two great daughters, Lizzie and Annie, and Linda's a wonderful person. And we went to New Year's Eve with him at Mar-a-Lago back in 2016. I remember this, and that's when the president, I've told the story before, that's when the president of the United States came out and he said, I'd like to thank everybody who's here, and where everybody's in a tuxedo and in evening gowns and all this stuff, and he says, I'd like to thank everybody here. He says, I just want to thank the members. The rest of you, I don't give a bleep about. It's the president of the United States. And I look over at Bill, and Bill's jaw drops. He wasn't expecting it. I mean, he wasn't a Trump guy, although of course he voted for him, I think, ultimately. But he was I'll always remember that night. And Bill Bill Macaulay's reaction. So Linda and Annie and Lizzie and the rest of the Macaulays, the mailroom manager and I send our deepest condolences, and we're really going to miss Bill, and everybody down here is, and just wanted to say a few kind words about him, and he was always so good to me. Thank you. Thanks for everything, Bill, and we're going to miss you. All right, 844-500-4242. That's the toll-free number of the Howie Carr Show. We got a lot. Let's take a few calls here. Stephen, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hi, Howie. How you doing?
Good.
I think I came up with what is a very simple, very succinct and blunt explanation of ranked choice voting, and I wanted to share that with you. Basically, okay,
I was, Stephen, I hadn't thought about ranked choice voting all through the weekend, and that's one of the reasons why it was kind of a relaxing weekend. Now my blood pressure, I can already feel it, is starting to go up as I think about ranked choice voting. Go ahead, though, explain it to me.
Oh, okay. Imagine 6 candidates, okay, and they each get a certain percentage. A ranked choice, the first thing it does is you don't have a runoff between the 2 top vote getters, which I think is ridiculous. But what happens is, let's say the 6th person only gets 3% of the vote. And what happens is their votes are eliminated, and it goes to their second choice. And it's like, why are we going to the second choice of the person who voted for the losing candidate? Are we going to trust their judgment? To put it into perspective, in other words, the guy who voted for Lyndon LaRouche or John Birch or David Duke or Beto O'Rourke gets a second choice.
Stephen, I could explain it in a more simple fashion as a former resident of the People's Republic of Cambridge. This is how we in the People's Republic of Cambridge have selected our city councilors for, I think, about 50 years, more, maybe longer than that. Every other city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts knows who it elected to its city council, board of aldermen, whatever, on the night of the election, that Tuesday night. In Cambridge, we don't know until Thursday or Friday. Why would any other municipality, state, or nation want to switch to a system where you don't automatically know who won the election? How about that, Stephen? Is that a good explanation of ranked choice voting?
But people that I've talked to, they wanted to know why it was bad, and I could.
I just explained it to you. I mean, the more time between when a vote takes place and you announce the results, that's more time for mischief, right? So there was somebody, I think maybe in Russia, said it doesn't matter who votes, it's who counts the votes, and that's what this is all about. Look at the 2nd Congressional District in Maine. I mean, who cares ultimately who's on the Cambridge City Council? But, they lost, the Republicans. Trump lost a congressman in Maine in a Republican, in a district that has become Republican. It's outrageous.
It's totally ridiculous. And what they're doing is they're hustling elderly people, and basically they don't even understand what they're signing when they're signing these.
Oh, tell me about it. I saw that before I left at the Wellesley town dump. All these old people were going up to other old people at the dump and trying to explain stuff to them, and it's just it's ridiculous. And here's another way to explain it. Here's how bad ranked choice voting is, folks. The California Assembly, the legislature in Sacramento, passed this thing twice, okay? And it's so bad that Governors Jerry Brown and Gavin Newsom have both vetoed it. Why have they both vetoed it? Because Brown is from Oakland, where they have ranked choice voting, and he's seen the kinds of atrocities that have occurred because of this system. Why did Newsom veto it more recently? I think just in October. Because he's from San Francisco, where they also have ranked choice voting. And he, too, has seen the kind of aberrations, political aberrations that can occur when you let people let the losers get elected to political office. Burlington, Vermont used to have ranked choice voting. And then they had a guy, I think, who actually finished third. Burlington, Vermont, that's the hometown now of Bernie Sanders. And they did away with it when I think a third-place finisher actually won the mayor's job. A third-place finisher. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. It's got to be stopped. It needs to be stopped. The Republicans need to pay more attention to this. Thanks for the call, Stephen. 844-500-4242. I'm Howie Carr.
You're tuned in.
Mark in Williston, Vermont.
This is Marie in Somerville, Massachusetts.
This is Mike from South Attleboro, Mass. And this is the Howie Carr Show.
I should really take off the whole damn day.
So go ahead. I'd obviously love to have you at the director brief, but if not, I'll stop by and give you an in-person debrief.
What's that?
That's the reenactment of the struck page texts by Dean Cain and Christy Swanson.
I
sent you an email about
no,
it.
I know, but I'm just not familiar. Savored them the same way most of us have savored them, and I would like to see personally all 50,000 of them, or at least have them available for somebody else to go through and then deliver them to me via the marvelous Al Gore invention called the internet.
This masterpiece theater was over an hour and a half long, and it was just comprised strictly of their texts and transcripts from testimony.
Oh no, I know it was good. I heard that they tried to open it off Broadway in New York, and they had a problem getting a theater once the theater owners, the woke theater owners, realized that what it was. I mean, it seems like a marvelous idea. We'll get to the whole thing, but first let's do the poll question. Today's poll question is brought to you by the all-new 3-row 2019 Subaru Ascent, featuring symmetrical all-wheel drive. Love is now bigger than ever. Taylor, what's the poll question? What are the results thus far?
Are you taking advantage of any Cyber Monday deals?
No, I'm not. How about you?
No. I just don't have the time. 85% say no.
This is how bad, though, this whole thing was, this whole impeachment thing that's going on here. This was, again, I had the New York Times. It was free. I'm not spending $7 to buy the Sunday New York Times or anything like that. Don't think I've gone insane. But I just happened to have it around, and the weather was kind of lousy in Dallas, and I couldn't get anybody to drive with me to Whataburger, so I was just reading papers and watching football. What are you laughing at, Grace? Whataburger is a great place, It was a.
That's the saddest sentence I've heard you say in so long. I couldn't get anyone to drive with me to Whataburger.
Those double cheese melt patties are fantastic. It was a national, not a national. It was a statewide crisis when Whataburger went up for sale in the earlier part of the year, and they were J.J. Watt, the All-Pro defense lineman for the Houston Texans. He was out last night, or the Patriots would have probably lost even worse. He was saying, we got to get somebody from Texas to buy Whataburger, and then the sad event happened. Somebody from Chicago bought Whataburger. Next thing you know, Norma's is going to go vegan, and there's not going to be any more chicken fried steak. But anyway, so I was watching it. I was watching football, and I was reading these things. So this is one, In Defense of Woke, by a guy named Damon Young. And I guess he's one of these black millennials who's very woke. It is our duty to never stop shouting about Donald Trump's abnormalities. And I believe this consciousness had an unlimited bandwidth. This is in the New York Times. But there I was on a lazy Saturday 3 years later, sitting in my living room and choosing to binge watch Queen Sugar. Whatever the hell that is. Do you know what that is, Grace? No idea. I don't either. I don't think I want to know. Instead of recaps of the impeachment inquiry, the President of the United States is possibly involved in a multinational scheme to suppress votes, discredit rivals, and threaten whistleblowers. Or perhaps not, too. Damon. This fever dream feels like the premise of a John Grisham novel that his editor rejected for being too absurd. This column feels like a fever dream that was rejected for being too absurd. But here's the key. This is a guy who's this crazy with Trump derangement syndrome. I am bored out of my mind with the impeachment proceedings and would rather watch my shower faucet drip Or perhaps just go to bed early and catch up on some sleep. What does that tell you? I think they got a problem. Houston, you have a problem. Here's another. This is from the Wall Street Journal from a guy named James Hankins. He's a professor of history at Harvard University. I hope he's got tenure because otherwise he's going to be broomed out of the place. Impeachment was on the family table this Thanksgiving. Only one beloved aunt was willing to declare her full support for President Trump. The rest had more or less been successfully fed the New York Times version of events. He didn't read this column, obviously, before he wrote that. There was a widespread belief that the phrase quid pro quo was the name of a type of felony. Roughly the same family members believed this who last Thanksgiving had believed collusion was a criminal act. 4 or 5 of us were willing to admit that the hearings were too partisan and unfair, although the overriding concern wasn't so much devotion to abstract justice as fear that the nation wouldn't swallow the impeachers' conclusions. This was in suburban Philadelphia. Almost all of my relatives believed that President Trump had tried to pressure the Ukrainian prime minister for his own political gain. No one had read the rough transcript of the call between the two leaders. We discussed what crime might have been committed, and the most popular option was extortion. No one present had studied criminal law. Something approaching rational debate arose only on the question of whether impeachment would benefit Democrats. No one thought the Democrats had a candidate who could beat President Trump. No one thought the Senate would convict him. This was in the blue suburbs of Philadelphia. More bad news for the Democrats. I'm Howie Carr.
If you're in or near the
live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
844-500-4242. Taylor, if we don't get to all that Lisa Page, Peter Strzok stuff today, we'll get to it tomorrow. It's just been kind of a crazy day here coming back and all that. There's a lot of stuff to get to here, and we're gonna take a couple more calls here before the hour. And Grace's father said to me, "Is Howie seen the Maureen Dowd column that she lets her brother write every year, Kevin?" Kevin is a reader. Is one of my readers, by the way. He's read Brothers Bulger and Hitman. I know that because Maureen Dowd told me that.
Do you think Maureen Dowd is a reader of your stuff? Of your work, I should say?
Well, I mean, she's read my columns and everything. I sent her some book. I gave her some books, and for Kevin actually. I think he's a cop or a former cop. Maybe he's retired now. But he wrote a very good column, and it's just everything totally opposite of what Maureen Dowd. They're a big Irish Catholic family from D.C. And
I have to admit that's pretty cool that she let him write a column.
She lets him write it every year.
Yeah, it's a cool dynamic though, because it shows you that everybody's family has different opinions.
Usually, again, I don't usually read the New York Times anymore, but I'm thinking if I can find her email address, if I still have it, from the trial, I'm going to write and say, Maureen, I'm sure I'm not the only one who sends her is going to be sending her this. Maureen, I like your brother's columns a lot more than I like your columns when you get right down. I'm sorry, Maureen. That's the way it is.
See, that's why I wouldn't let any of my siblings take over my column, because I don't want emails like that.
He's got a way with words too, and I'm sure she would say, "Well, I rewrote it.
Oh yeah, I helped him.
Yeah, I fine-tuned it." Howie. David, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, David.
Hi, Howie and Grace. I'm just calling. I just wanted to say how much I enjoy the Trump rallies.
Yes.
They're
so Lisa Page doesn't enjoy them, David.
Comedy movie. Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't. That's right. That's good, though. He just is so hilarious. It's better than a comedy movie or a sitcom. It's so hilarious. I just usually find out the same day. I'm watching Fox News, and they'll say he has a rally, Louisiana, Florida, wherever he is, and Midwest. And I just can't wait for it to start. It's better than watching football. I'm a Cowboys fan.
I agree. I agree, David. It does, and sometimes it's gotten to the point sometimes where they cut away from them because they want to just do the regular programming, and they think, maybe people are getting jaded. But I kind of wonder, when they have the split screen, and it's one of the Fox people talking, and then you got him, Trump's there, and he's making jokes, but the sound's turned down, and I'm always thinking to myself, gee, I hope I'm not missing any good jokes. Don't you feel that way, David?
Tucker Carlson show. He starts at 8, and they starts then, and then they cut back to him and back and forth. But for the most part, they stay with it. But yeah, why they cut away, I don't know. It's the way they do things, but it's hilarious. I love it. I can't wait till the next one occurs.
Yeah. I know, and the thing is too. It's like he relishes getting under their skin. I know that you know very well that the next rally, I think the next one's in Hershey, Pennsylvania. You know who the star is going to be, right? Lisa Page. Do you know how much time he's going to devote to Lisa Page now that she has whined so loudly about the way he treated her? It's going to be great. It's going to be really must see.
I love you, Peter. I love you too, Lisa. Lisa, I love you. Lisa. Oh God, I love you, Lisa.
He's basically reading from the transcripts that we haven't seen. I mean, the FBI tried to pretend these texts didn't exist. Mrs. Strzok, who's another paper shuffler in the deep state, she found them and turned them over to the FBI, probably the IG's office, and that's how they initially found these things.
Howie, do you think finding out that Lisa Page was the one editing the 302s might be the straw to break the camel's back for Michael Flynn's case? I'm getting the sense that it might be.
Do you think that maybe the writer for the Daily Beast should have asked a follow-up question? I didn't do anything wrong. She said, wait a second, Lisa. I mean, what about these stories that you edited raw FBI reports? You weren't there. What were you doing? You think that's okay? Would you like it if somebody edited a raw FBI report about you to put in stuff you didn't say?
Wait, Howie, and correct me if I'm wrong. The phones they were using to communicate were not their personal phones, right?
Yeah.
These were FBI.
Correct.
So even just there, if you were going to do that, can't you just do it on your own phone? Can't you just get a personal phone and do it from there? And then at least you'll have a little bit of an argument where you can say, hey, I was doing it on my personal phone. But if you're on your work computer and your boss finds, millions of text messages sent out during the day and you're just an average Joe, you could probably get in trouble for that.
And incidentally, the IG, the Inspector General, asked Strzok to turn over his personal phone because, hey, like Lisa's page said, we got nothing to hide here, But Strzok wouldn't turn over his personal phone because he didn't have to because the IG doesn't have a subpoena power and Strzok had been fired by then.
He called up Hillary. Hey, get over here and bring your hammer quick. Bring everything you got. The bleach bit, the hammers.
Your cloth. Didn't she say with a cloth?
Yeah.
Did I erase with a cloth?
Did I wipe it down like what? With a cloth?
Thanks for the call, David. Josephine, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Josephine.
I think that Biden's wife is pushing him to run because he's incompetent, but she sees herself as the next Mrs. Wilson. She thinks she's going to run the country because he's such a incompetent person.
I don't think you'd have another Woodrow Wilson situation now. That's what the 25th Amendment is there for, isn't it, Josephine? I mean, what she's talking about is Woodrow Wilson in his second term. He was reelected in 1916. He had a stroke, and he was basically, incompetent. He couldn't speak. And Mrs. Wilson was running the country for a couple of years. But I don't think that would happen today, Josephine. I think he's just being pushed forward. But I don't know who would be pushing him forward. I mean, who really thinks that he could handle this? He can't handle the No Malarkey tour on the bus. What, Grace?
Oh, I was just going to say, because earlier I had said I thought Dr. Jill should, encourage Joe, like Josephine said, to get down from the race. But then my dad texted me and said, it's hard to get out of a race, no matter how weak you are, if you're winning. And that's the scary part. He's winning, and he doesn't seem to really be affected by these gaffes, which is what I said earlier, Howie, in the first hour. There was a article in the National Review that said unless these people like Mayor Pete and Elizabeth Warren are willing to get their hands dirty and go on the offense with him, he might stay the front runner the whole time.
They're not going to do it, Grace. I'm telling you, they aren't.
That's their only hope.
They have learned lessons from 2016, from that debate in New Hampshire, where Christie took out Rubio, and the only one who benefited, well, Cruz benefited to a degree because Rubio was gone, but Trump was the one who benefited. And the guy who actually did the knife work on Rubio literally destroyed his campaign, which was rising in the polls. He got no benefit whatsoever from it. Zero.
They've got to do something because nothing is taking him down thus far. I saw a guy on Fox this morning. He said, you guys bring me back here every month to talk about and every month you say this and that, and then every month we come back, and guess who's number one? Joe Biden.
Yeah.
It's weird. He's kind of unstoppable.
Well, there's an old saying in politics, you can't beat somebody with nobody.
That's true.
And those people are nobodies. I mean, I don't hate to say it, but it's unkind, but it's a fact. I mean, some of them have $50 billion. Some of them have $3 billion. Some of them are gay. Some of them are black. Some of them are black women. But none of them.
Watch your microaggressions, bro.
I'm just telling you, they all have different constituencies in the modern Democrat Party. One of them is a flat-out commie who went to on his honeymoon to the old Soviet Union. One of them is Harvard University's first woman of color.
So.
And for some reason, none of them are catching fire. Can you believe this? Anyway, let me read you a little bit of Maureen Dowd's brother's column, Kevin. Every year she lets Kevin, and again I think he's a former cop. He writes the column for her. Over the past 3 years, Maureen has frequently sent me reader emails demanding to know how I can still support Donald Trump. My short answer is always the same. Have you looked at the alternative? Great minds think alike, Grace. That's what were we just discussing? I feel safer in my bed with the way the president, these are just highlights. I feel safer in my bed with the way the president is handling Iran and North Korea. Most of all, I support him for saving the Supreme Court from Hillary Clinton. Trump came from the roughest job training in the world, the New York construction trade. His manners are sometimes missing. He can be coarse and a bully, but I've been pleasantly surprised that he has done exactly what he promised, despite a hostile press. This guy, he's one of us.
Yeah, and you're right, though. He does have a very nice flow for writing. I like all of these sentences. They're short and to the point.
Pithy. Maureen's a good writer. She's just out of her mind. The impeachment inquiry is a farce. Ukraine didn't do the investigation and the aid was released. I think that all aid is quid pro quo. It is. Schiff's hearings produced a long line of career bureaucrats disturbed and upset with Trump and brimming with second and third-hand information. I grew up in Washington with these bureaucrats. It is good to remind them occasionally that the president makes policy and the agency should carry it out without comment. Hopefully, the upcoming IG's report will be worse than we've been led to believe, causing night sweats for Comey, McCabe, Brennan, Clapper, and the lovers. Ooh, man, Lisa Page. She's gonna walk to the other side of the street if she sees you coming at her in the swamp. The Democrats' horror at Trump's conjures up Lady Macbeth crying out in agony, "Out, damned spot!" The mainstream media have reached a new low. This is Maureen Dowd's brother, Kevin, writing her column on Sunday. The mainstream media have reached a new low. They are not even pretending to be objective as they relentlessly batter the president daily, putting Trump just ahead of Harvey Weinstein and trailing only Satan. Reporters write opinion columns packed with innuendo and anonymous sources, not to mention what Anonymous is cooking up. Newspapers that once had the most stringent editing rules on sources now appear to have no editors at all. The Washington Post reached a new journalistic low when it described the world's #1 terrorist as an austere religious scholar after our forces cornered him and he blew himself up. Somewhere, Abe Rosenthal, he's the former managing editor of the New York Times, weeps. She was the editor when Maureen started, I believe, at the New York Times. Finally, one recent HuffPost piece turkey shamed us all, suggesting that for this beloved holiday, we should consider curbing the carbon footprint of our turkeys in travel. These Democrats sure are a lot of fun. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Why don't you read about how much what Bloomberg owns? You got that tweet in front of you there, Grace?
Oh, I can pull that up. It's something like a lot of airplanes.
Yeah, again, they lecture us. They want us to stop eating turkeys.
Oh, here it is. Michael Bloomberg owns 3 planes, 2 helicopters, 6 boats, 11 houses, 42 cars, and says that you should take the bus to help fight climate change. These candidates are all jokes.
You see, he spent $300,000 on TV ads in Oklahoma, the most Republican state in the union.
Yeah, I saw one of his TV ads actually over Thanksgiving.
But I mean, it's one thing to see an ad in Massachusetts
right.
or New Hampshire. You know, it's another thing to see one in Tulsa.
But Howie, you know what? And what's Maureen's brother's name? Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin's point, though, about they're a lot of fun is a good point because it doesn't seem important, but when you look at the foil between Trump and these other people, he's just more fun. He's just joking around. He sent out that Rocky picture, and they got mad about that.
When was the last time you said, "Oh wow, the president's speaking tonight"? let me go get some popcorn or a
Right.
beer, you know? I mean, it's never happened.
And the way he trolls them, he shows how not fun they are. I saw a piece of Brian Stelter, and he was talking about the Rocky tweet where Trump had put his head on Rocky Balboa, and he's like, this just goes to show you that this is propaganda. And I thought, you guys are such drips. Like, who would want to be on your side?
It was their biggest scoop since they got him photoshopping the Conan the Dog medal award.
The paw medal with the big paw on it. That was
Right.
fake.
Right.
A beautiful dog. A talented dog.
I'm Howie Carr.
This is Jeff in Woodstock, Connecticut.
This is Laura Benner in South Burlington, Vermont.
This is Jimmy Mack in Falmouth, Massachusetts, and this is The Howie Carr Show.
I hope somebody finds out if Nancy Pelosi is on that jet that's assigned to the Speaker. And why the hell is a jet assigned to the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives? I don't know. I mean, I know it's been that way for a number of years now, but it's ridiculous.
Well, Greta, I think, is still doing her strike from going to school about climate change, I believe. So if she found out that Nancy Pelosi was on a jet, I know what her reaction would be.
How dare you?
Exactly.
Try not to let what I'm about to say destroy your faith in the integrity of politics in the city with the broad shoulders. Chicago, that toddling town. Chicago's embattled top cop has been fired today for intolerable conduct just weeks before he was scheduled to retire. Mayor Lori Lightfoot announced Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson has been given the boot. He's known to his men as Special Ed, telling reporters that he misled her after he was found passed out in his car in October. Eddie Johnson intentionally lied to me. Oh, no. Lightfoot said at a news conference after a city investigation concluded Johnson had taken a series of actions that were intolerable. He had been found passed out in his car on October 17th in the early morning hours. He blamed exhaustion and new blood pressure medication on the scandal, but later said he had gotten a bad ice cube. Don't you hate it when that happens? Again, I'm trying not to let it destroy my faith in the integrity of the Chicago Police Department. Go ahead, Grace.
Oh, can I read this one before
Yes.
we go? Okay. Email from Prince Andrew seems to show he does remember Virginia Giuffre.
You're kidding. Try not to let this one destroy your faith in the integrity of the British royal family.
Yeah, so he's been insisting that he doesn't remember ever meeting Virginia, but an email from the prince shows...
Next thing you're going to be telling me is that Prince Charles has a bigger carbon footprint than the entire state of Florida and Texas combined.
He emailed no one but Ghislaine Maxwell 4 years ago about Virginia. He said, let me know when we can talk. Got some specific questions to ask you about Virginia Roberts. And now he's saying he has no recollection of meeting her.
And they photoshopped his hand onto that now famous picture. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Howie Carr.
Dr. Bruce Houghton from